A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Mark, chapter 13, verses 24 to 32. Passage taken from the Message version of the Bible. Following those hard times, sun will fade out, moon cloud over, stars fall out of the sky, cosmic powers tremble, and then they will see the Son of Man enter in grand style, his arrival filling the sky. No one will miss it. He will dispatch the angels. They will pull in the chosen from the four winds, from pole to pole. Take a lesson from the fig tree. From the moment you notice its buds form, the nearest hint of green, you know summer's just around the corner. And so it is with you. When you see all these things, you know He is at the door. Don't take this lightly. I'm not just saying this for some future generation, but for this one too. These things will happen. Sky and earth will wear out. My words won't wear out. But the exact day and hour, no one knows that. Not even heaven's angels. Not even the Son. Only the Father. So keep a sharp lookout, for you don't know the timetable. It's like a man who takes a trip, leaving home and putting his servants in charge, each assigned a task, and commanding the gatekeeper to stand watch. So stay at your post, watching. You have no idea when the homeowner is returning, whether evening, midnight, cockcrow, or morning. You don't want him showing up unannounced, with you asleep on the job. I say it to you, I am saying it to all. Stay at your post, keep watch. The Gospel of the Lord. Reflections on the Gospel according to St. Mark, chapter 13, verses 24 to 32. We are almost at the end of the liturgical year. When Mark writes this passage of his Gospel, the Roman Empire was ravaged by wars, plagues, calamities, and famines. The Christian communities were affected by the persecution and killings. Faced with such struggles, some fanatics began to spread rumors of an imminent catastrophe, the end of all creation, and the return of Christ on the clouds of heaven. It is here the evangelist feels he must intervene to put the events in proper perspective. Jesus is not making some new predictions in the gospel. Of course, he uses an apocalyptic language, but do not mistake them as invented by Jesus. It is taken from the book of prophet Isaiah. In chapters 13 and 34, Isaiah says, "The stars of heaven and the constellation Orion will no longer give their light. The sun shall be darkened at its rising, and the moon shall not give its light. All the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved." Many run into the mistake of interpreting these words of Jesus in the literal sense, and thus we have numerous blockbuster movies talking about the doomsday or the end of the world. But Jesus is inviting his listeners to understand the history in a different way. He speaks of the days of the beginning of sorrows. What sorrows is he talking about? They are the pains of birth, the birth of a new world, not the pains of sufferings and death. During the Last Supper, Jesus had used this image of the woman in childbirth. Although she is in pain, she would forget all her pains when she has the joy of having her child. The pains that we would undergo in this world are the pains of our birth into the new world. With the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem, a whole new world will begin. With the beginning of the preaching of the gospel, the gods that had seduced humankind will begin to fall. Emperors and kings who justified slavery, moral corruption, and oppression of the people. They considered themselves to be the sun, the moon, and the stars. But now they will lose their splendor. All the rulers, from the Pharaoh to the Mesopotamian emperors, the kings, they all thought they were the stars in the sky. Jesus says, all these stars now fall. These stars must not be in heaven. They are not divinities. Where the light of the gospel enters, all these will be darkened. Jesus is giving an announcement of the joy. It is an announcement of an earthquake that will overthrow all the kingdoms of injustice and lies. What are the false stars of the world that seduce and cheat people with their false promises of success today? Do you regard money, possessions, and the accumulation of power achieved by trampling on everyone else as the stars you revere and honor? Then the fall is inevitable.